Gotta get that signal. Okay, what we're gonna do is put the upper teeth in here. And how we're gonna do that is use this heat gun right here. I'm gonna soften it. You gotta hit the back of it with the heat gun. Soften it up. Get it nice and pliable. You don't want it too soft. You just want it soft enough that it's going to bend and flat. I'll put it in there and hit the back of this thing with the heat gun. Soften it up. You don't want it too soft because it'll break. I mean, you want enough where it's just pliable to bend. And just gentle, easy. Once you can gently get it pushed in, right here. Done and pliable where it can fit in here to a degree. Let it set so the resin rehardens. Now, as you can see, I still got to do a little bit of dremeling, cutting, and all that, but I'm letting this set. Then I'm going to go in and mark where I need to take out this area here so it'll mesh and fit with the rest of this. Okay, but the thing is to get it shaped where you can put the teeth in. And you see it's kind of crooked a little bit, but once that hardens up, it'll fit. So let me flip this around again and do a little bit more to it so you guys can see. Just soften it up a little bit. And some areas right here. And what you want to do is just generalize where it's going to go, right? Because you want to push it in there and hold it to where they generally fit. All right. Now this resin will contract and expand a little bit. It doesn't shrink and stay shrunken. It will contract and expand a little bit. What I gotta do is get this fit proportionally all the way around in here first before I can glue it down. And then once I glue it down, but I gotta see where it's gonna, the trimming and stuff is gonna come out. Mark it where I need to cut it. Right here, this area here. Once it's retro, I have to mark where it needs to be cut according to the layout. Right here. These birds do not go flush up. They're not going to be flush up against the thing. I do need to do a little bit more heat work. Just a little bit. You don't want a lot. You just only need a little bit of heat. And this will move and mold the way it's supposed to. Okay. There we go. Got it about retrofitted perfectly. God damn. Well, I got it fitted right in the spot where it needs to be. Son of a bitch, you're gonna fucking stay. I'm going to mark where this comes off at. Flange it just a little bit. Because when it gets glued down, it's going to have to be fitted into not just the glue. Alright. Once you mark it off, and you got the place that you need to soften it up. Go back in with scissors and trim that off. Facebook's really being a fucking idiot right now. All that reconnect bullshit. So you heat it up with the heat gun. And you go in with scissors and cut along your line markings there. They're little scissors. You want to soften it up to where it'll cut. You god dog son of a bitch. Man, Facebook is pissing me off today. Gonna retrofit these in the channel where the teeth set in there. So I still have a little ways to go to cut and trim it back. Alright, just about there. I'll cut this around that shape and trim it. Gently with scissors. Now some of these teeth have air bubbles in them, so I have to go in with epoxy putty and fill them in. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a little bit in between and behind the teeth, so this flange like this exposes the teeth. And see how that tooth is exposed there? So when you lay it up, it's going to lay naturally over the inner mouth. And there'll be a space. So you have to trim this back a little bit. Right there. When you're getting your on it. And I got to fix that with the epoxy putty. And that's no fault to Mike. I mean, you know. This kind of thing happens, so, you know, you just got to know how. It's a DIY thing, so you got to know how to do it. So, that's why it's called do it yourself. Because you want to do it yourself. Or you hire me to do it. You gently go in here and trim out some of this flashing on the back. Don't cut the teeth out. You cut the flashing behind the teeth. So like right here. I got a teeth with a missing tip. I'm going to cut that flashing behind that missing tip so I can build up on it. And cut right alongside that tooth. I got to build up. I knew this was going to take a while. But now you can see how the teeth, see how the teeth lay over the top and the space. So when you fit it in there, I got to build up these tips. But you can see how it's going to lay in over the top of the mouth and look natural. Alright? So there we go. So I got to go in and take all this out right here. Right along here, along these edges of the teeth, and fit this, retrofit this in there. And then glue it, and we'll do a little weld. I got to get some paint tomorrow. And we can spray paint this down. Prime it. And when we prime it, we'll be ready to start airbrushing and shit. So, like I said, you gotta come in because you want to go along the channel on the inside here. So you take a heat gun, soften that resin so you can cut it without snapping it. And just gently trim away what you need to get out of there. I got a little piece down here in the corner I got to get out in this part. Be careful because this heat gun will hurt you. You got the thicker pieces of resin, you got to trim and cut them with bigger scissors. I got all this right here I gotta get rid of. Not all of it, but a lot of it. Take this out. Grab big scissors. Trim it back just a little bit. See how easy that cuts when it's soft. If I use the small scissors to shape it, so I can get around the teeth and some of the areas there. Now take off little bits at a time. You don't want to cut off huge chunks. And just retrofit it, check it out, make sure it looks good. Still got more. I'll cut this in here and just cut it and channel it. And like I said, if you overcut it, don't worry about it. It'll fit in there, and you take a foxy putty and you blend it in. That's what epoxy putty is for. It's supposed to be a blending agent where you can make it look good and smooth. Get that in there. And then go around and trim this up. And if you have to keep using the heat gun, do so. Keep using your heat gun, but don't use it in high settings, use it on low settings. No sooner as I say that, and I kick it into high setting. Shit. Now, mind you, I'm also going to be sculpting a replica set of great white shark jaws. Very similar to this, but they're going to be freestanding. Like the ones that were on Clint's boat. It'll be an upper and lower thing. And they're probably from about the same size shark. So, carefully trim that down resin. And then you can take a Dremel and go and smooth the edges if you need to. See, there's grooves right here where these teeth would lay up against them when they're not retracted. And I want to make sure that those teeth fit those grooves and they look natural. So I'm going to cut a little flashing behind the tooth. There we go. Put that in there, make sure that's going to fit. And then just do 3 or 4 more. Twist it out. Get it out of the shark's mouth. Now, if you order one of these that Mike does complete, it'll all be, you won't have air bubbles and the teeth and shit like that. He takes his time to get all that out. So, you get all that out. I'm going to turn this up just a little bit here. I'll drummer that down just a little bit. I don't want to go too far because I don't want any flat surface back there showing. I don't want to have to put too much of the epoxy putty in here because it'll build up on it. and I don't need that. Come on, now it doesn't want to fit again. It's bending. Well, we're just about done and ready. I just got to cut a little bit right here. Dumble that down a little bit, I'll soften it up. There we go. Okay. Want this whole area right here. Turn that back. Then I gotta cut the flashing behind. See that piece is sticking out? I gotta cut that off behind it. That way I can have the tips of the teeth protruding like a fruit shell. Be careful because some of this is attached to the tooth. And this is going to go down in here, but it's not going to be. I'm really going to cut and soften this out. marker. I got two hands and 16 to foot in them. Shit. I'm trying to get this little piece here to fit down in here. So I got to trim off the bottom right here, soften that up. I can push it in there. I don't want to trim too much because the gums are already showing. So what I'm going to do is soften it up so I can bend it in there and have it locked in place. I want the shape where it fit. And there we go. And that's locked in right there. Soften that up a little bit over here where it's not going to lock in and get it locked in place. Push it in gently and easily. But you don't want to push too hard because you'll snap it. If you snap it, you got to super glue it back together. And that's not a fun process having to super glue this thing. That's just. This motherfucker doesn't want to sit up on the damn shit. So yeah, push down on one side, want to pop out on the other. So you soften it up, or you can push it in place. I'd like to pin it, but the pins won't go through this fiberglass. I'm not really quite ready to glue it down yet. There's going to be a little Bondo build-up on this, just a little bit. Because there's a gap right here. Shit, y'all can't see it. There's a little gap right here. I'm going to push that in there and then do a little bit of trimming and Bondo build-up to soften that up and make it look like it curves right back in the gums. So, you got to have these recessed a bit. A little. But they're in there. Just about. You got to get this side. So we just about got them set in there. A little dremeling up here. Then I got to cap these off with epoxy resin because you got busted teeth right here. And I'm not going to leave them broken. So, you got tips that you got to rebuild on this. When you get it softened up to where it'll lay down up against here, you push it down and then it'll be soft enough that it'll glue and set in there. So that's what we're doing here. I want to try to eliminate as much epoxy buildup as I can. I'm going to push it down where the pliable there. There we go. And mark right here where the little grooves come in, so I can cut grooves in here so that it'll fit. And Dremel them actually. There we go. Put that right there. I'm just about going to tuck in there. And that's the thing. You got to have these back teeth tucked in a little bit. Right here. You got to get these tucked in a little bit. So they look natural. Right there. Then I got to build this up a little bit with Bondo, the epoxy sculpt. Kind of build that up, round that off. That way, and then, you know, you have this area here that you got to build up a little bit with a little epoxy putty. There is a groove there, but I'm just going to put a little bit in there. Not that it goes flush up against the lip, because the lip can be retracted. Still got to do a tiny bit of dremeling right here to get this to fit in there. But for the most part, and then there's like these little grooves right here. I'll mark it where I want those to go so I can dremel and it tucks in there and fits. Same thing right down here at the bottom. I'm going to cut that off. Well, we're about just about there. Mark that right there. Where that has to go off and be retrofitted. That way I can be pretty precise for this. And I want to be able to not completely have it flat, but enough that it's, when I Dremel out these areas here, the back part right here where it goes in there doesn't show up. Because right here, there's a gap. And I can do that, but I have to fill that with either epoxy putty or paint. And it's not going to look good if there's a gap there and it's not filled with paint and there's a line and all that. So, get the big scissors for this one. And cut your curve in there and just curve it around. Cut that curve. And come very gently on the inside. Don't want to cut any of the teeth. You do want to trim away the gum line just a little bit. Get about so far. Let's see how that fits. And that's about right there. That's about it right there. I just got to soften this up so I can push it in. That way I can anchor this thing in and have it bent and shaped to fit. To where it hardens up, I just pop it out, it'll pop right back in. And I can glue it down. There we go. I don't know if Mike trimmed all this away, but I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, nah, I probably don't need to because there's gaps behind it. And I don't know how those gaps are going to show up, how they're going to look. Push these to fit right there. And get as tight a line as possible when I push them in, so it lays up against the upper, the inner jaw without doing too much as far as structure. So that way I can have it glued in. I don't want to do any epoxy work. So, let's get this, look at it from this vantage point here. And you see how it's retrofitting inside the groove? What you want to get it to where it's close to fit right in without having to do too much epoxy work. That way it sets inside there. And this part you don't have to worry about because it's in their jaws. The tip. So I'm going to do that. I'll do a little construction work here on this. On getting some of this flashing and stuff out. And then retrofit these. And go back and fit a epoxy sculpt. But I got to get the teeth chipped first. And I'll do that real quick. Teeth chip. Just take a little epoxy resin and pop these out. Okay. Take a little fancy A, a little fancy V, a little bit more V than A. Two pieces, put them together. Mash it up, roll it around. I thought this was the one that came out white, but I was mistaken. This is a gray. So it doesn't matter. Because when I primer it, all this is going to be white anyway. So. Mix that up so it's a solid color. Roll it around. Do all that. And you take a little pinch of it. A little pinch. Pinch of it. Put it on that tooth. It's a pain to do these small ones. To get the tip right. And put it on there. Shape it out. I'm going to smooth it out. And just shape the tip. Flatten it out. And you fill the air bubbles. Front and back. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 more to do. I'll take another one. A little tiny chips too. These I may have to leave as broken. Because I think it's going to be hard to do it. It's going to be too hard to do it. So I'll leave those as broken. That is broken. No, they're not going to have perfect teeth anyway. I'll lend credibility to the shark having broken teeth. There's another one you can get, which is fitted with air bubbles. Build it up on the back side and then just shape it. Into a point. And There you go. Now, when you want to have it lay down and be smooth looking, well, you take your little silicone tip brush and go along the edges of that clay, epoxy, smooth it out. And there you go, it's a perfect tip. Alright, so I need to do a little bit of cleanup on this, and I'll get it fitted in. We'll see how much epoxy resin work needs to be done, and we'll come back in a little bit for that. Okay, I know I gotta do a little bit right here, so I'm gonna go ahead and smooth this out right here on the jaw. Well, this fiberglass is kind of coming in ragged. And I'll take a little Dremel and go around and smooth that out. And I'm getting a little Dremel out and run it through there real quick. Oh, but the heat gun don't need that anymore. Well, I don't have the tip to this shit. Alright, hang on. Alright, I gotta do a little cleanup here. So let me do some cleanup real quick. Start melting down some of this clay that I've got up here. I've got tons of clay from fucking Jason. It's a bucket and a bowl. I gotta put that in a pot, start melting that down because I gotta get ready to get the chicken fucker. That'll be the next one. Get that one done. Chicken fucker will take me a few days to do. But anyway, we'll get back to this, finishing up the filling in and the smoothing out the Bondo and the Dremel, and we'll see how that turns out. Alright, and we'll probably start painting it either tomorrow or Tuesday. Okay, I will see you guys on the next one. Appreciate it.